Jeremy, that was inspiring wherever you've gone, over there. I nearly got run over this morning just wearing headphones, so I hate to think what virtual reality is going to do for my commute, especially on a bicycle. Yeah, Richard said a little bit about me, so I'm going to talk today about Immediate's strategy for growth and how technology underpins that. My background is in non-publishing related roles, and that's quite important from an Immediate perspective because we see our growth as being facilitated by a variety of different business models, not necessarily ones you'd associate with traditional publishing. I joined Immediate because there's a great product mix at Immediate. We have a great track record of financial growth, and I'll show you a bit about that. But it's a company that invests in technology, and it's serious about investing in technology for future growth. And I'll talk through that now. I will also try and keep to time. First of all, for anyone unfamiliar with Immediate, I'm not sure how many people know this, but we're a top 3 magazine business in the UK. And we don't describe ourselves as a magazine business per se. We call ourselves the special interest, content, and platform company. And why is that important? Well, that wording is really important to us. We only invest in special content, in special interest brands. The reason for that is we feel that those special interests are much more engaging with consumers, and we have a much deeper relationship with them as a result. We're obviously world-class at creating content. We're a publisher, and we've won lots of awards there. But finally, we underpin this with great technology, and that's what I'm going to discuss today. But for those of you that don't know, here's a little bit about Immediate. Okay, as you can see, we've got lots of brands, but we play to special interest. We want to be right there with our consumers, helping them out in the most enjoyable things they do, but also in the most enjoyable moments of their life. As I said, Immediate is solely focused on special interest because we believe it drives both scale and engagement, and you can see the scale of things. I mean, we have really big audiences in special interest. And more importantly, they're quite affluent audiences as well, a lot of these. And they spend a lot. You know, they like to spend with us and with others. Whether that's the 10 million people that watch a lot of telly, over 1 million brides, 6 million cyclists, and so on. It's a growing and engaging marketplace. And in many ways, what we are is a brand-building business. You saw the video. Hopefully, you'll recognize some of the titles up here. I mean, one of them, for instance, Radio Times, is definitely part of the national conversation. It was founded in 1923 at the birth of radio. It goes that far back. What unites all of them, though, is that they're at the center of their markets and the center of the markets they serve. And that ensures that we can reach up to 19, or over 19 now, million digital consumers every month. That's a sizable market, and it's growing. They trust us, they rely on us, and that gives us permission to find new ways to serve their needs. This one always has a bit of trouble. This happened earlier. Cue the help. Thank you. So what does this mean? Well, just to give you a flavor of our scaled audience and what special interest can bring. We sold 76 million magazines last year. We've got 1.3 million magazine subscribers. That's comfortably better than our nearest competitor. And we're growing all the time in our digital reach and our social reach. Immediate is a growing company, and it's geared for growth, but that growth doesn't come just from special interest or from world-class content. It also comes from investing in technology that underpins this, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So the first thing I'm always asked is what is platform? So let me just kind of quickly address that. You can see sometimes here, some of these come to my slides. They're not quite as slick as other ones, but there we go. My own efforts, I'm afraid. So this is a fairly simple diagram. We have a global audience of 35 million at the top, and the platform itself is made up of 4 components below that. So first and foremost, we focus on content and presentation. We've built a platform that allows us to scale out across multiple channels. Those channels now range from print to web to mobile to TV. The advantages of having content like that is you can play out on multiple devices, but of course, you're able to scale as well. Aligned to that, on the bottom right, we have commerce and monetization. Immediate's been around about 5 years, and in that time, we've diversified massively from being a largely print business to being a much more digitally focused business, but also with other things tied into it from a business model perspective. And I'll come on to those again, things like e-commerce and ways in which we make additional money. And on the left-hand side, we have data and personalization. Just like every other publisher, we have a lot of data on our customers, and we're starting to increasingly use that. Well, we've always used it for digital marketing, of course, like everyone else, but we're increasingly using that to change the proposition that customers see. So using data, we can tailor content to content they prefer, and we can provide business models or business sales opportunities that they're likely to interact with or convert. And that, in essence, is our platform. It brings content and commerce together with data to personalize it. However, you'll see there's one point on the bottom that's slightly different: people and productivity. I don't know how many of you are actually from publishing world or I assume quite a lot of people. We invest a lot in technology. We have up to 150 full-time employees dedicated to technology. And we have those spread across 4 locations. I've worked with many different, Richard sort of talked about it, I've worked with many different resourcing models in the past, including some pretty radical offshoring. And publishers will hate me for this, but I remember even offshoring editorial journalism to India, which didn't go very well. But, I've gone down that path. But we are absolutely dedicated to platform. Our platform is critical to our growth, and in fact, it's embedded in the culture of the company. And as a result, I truly believe that it's best to build an onshore capability. So that team is largely based in the UK, and where we use external resource, we use external resource to provide us with knowledge we don't have, and we build up our own capability in-house. And that, I believe, gives us competitive advantage. However, developing a platform strategy requires discipline. It involves building capability for all. And this means you sometimes need to take short-term pain for long-term gain. This can be difficult when presented with an existing brand opportunity. And the temptation is always to go for the quick win, the quick fix. And senior stakeholders in Immediate are no different from any other company. They want that. However, if that means compromising on your platform strategy, you really are making a mistake. So let's look at the case with Immediate. As you've seen, we have a large number of brands. If we developed out solutions for every single one of those brands, we'd have massive amounts of duplication. But I don't think that's really the key to it. The key to it is anything that's developed in one brand that really works couldn't be exportable to another brand. And we'd be missing out on opportunities. Without a platform, you're like rooks. This really was one of my slides. Those are rooks, by the way. On the left-hand side, fragmented, complex, flying around in their own different direction. I'd much rather be like the geese on the right, with a platform that's scalable, extendable. And I think the key message I've been getting across at Immediate is that over time, that actually becomes more simple. It feels difficult initially, but it becomes more simple over time. So how's this played out over the last few years? Well, Immediate now has a whole bunch of different business models. So we have on the left, we have transactions. So we have a marketplace business at a company called Hitched, which is about wedding venues and supplier listings. Over 3,000 of them now. We have dedicated e-commerce platforms. We have a company called Jewelry Maker that does TV shopping, and we're soon to launch another channel. We've got paid-for content. We have membership models. We drive subscription value out of charging people for premium content. We have obviously mobile web, and we've always been quite blunt about being mobile first. Some of our brands have 90% mobile penetration. And then on the print side, I don't really want to forget print, because it's still a growing part of our business. We have, as I said, a growing subscriptions base, and most, if not all, of our markets are growing in value from a print perspective, which is quite unusual. But again, I think that speaks to the power of specialist interest. So I've described what I mean by platform, and that's this, and how essential that is to Immediate. Let me just show you where we've put it into action. So I'll cover two areas. Those businesses that are experiencing high growth in our business, and when I mean by high growth, I'm talking about double-digit growth. And secondly, those businesses that are still growing, but there's a more modest pace to their growth. They require less investment, but still deliver resilient cash flow. So let me start with the transformational growth side. From an e-commerce perspective, we've extended our brands into all sorts of buying opportunities. So we put content up. A good example, you probably saw things like Game of Thrones flashed up in the video. That allows us to leverage the locations around Croatia, and we've sold many holidays off the back of that. You know, we've moved into books, travel, money, those kinds of brand extensions. We had well over 100,000 transactions year to date, and the power of special interest is strong enough that we get 40% repeat business from that. So there's this kind of loyal cycle that builds up over time. We also use our strength in reviewing products in, say, cycling and parenting to extend that into direct purchase as well. And you can see how this model extends to craft and other sectors as well. And we do all this by extending via APIs. Wherever possible, we don't tightly couple anything. We, as much as possible, extend through API relationships. However, the real action is in Birmingham, where I've set up a team dedicated to building e-commerce solutions. They currently support the growing Jewelry Maker business, but they're developing other customer propositions as we speak. Secondly, marketplace. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Hitched. It's a wedding planning business. More than 50% of brides-to-be, I should say, find their way to Hitched, which is a great funnel for traffic. What they tend to do is help with wedding planning and book venues and so on. But we've built it in such a way that it's scalable and extendable. You know, the things I talked about before. That means we're now extending it beyond that venue's journey into other suppliers like florists and photographers. Most people don't know this, but the media spend in weddings is about £50 million a year. The actual money that's spent on weddings in the UK is £13 billion. And that's kind of where the untapped possibilities lie. I'm not saying that media's going to find £13 billion, but you see there's a much bigger pool to play in there. And we're looking to extend that marketplace, not just to suppliers, but move it into guest spend and everything else that goes on around weddings. Finally, TV shopping. TV shopping is now a major part of our business. It's a bit different from a publisher. It already accounts for tens of millions of pounds of revenue. Very exciting. We have 2 studios. We do live broadcasts and repeat playback. We have to be up 24/7. And the platform has been built in such a way that it enables us to launch new channels with minimal software change. I mean, that was a key requirement for me, that we could just launch multiple channels. It's all about taking special interest, like jewelry making, and finding further channels to engage with our customers. TV is one of those key ones for us. And these opportunities only come about because our platform supports them. We employ cloud hosting where feasible, and standard technologies where appropriate. One thing we really don't do is keep legacy systems going that are hard to maintain. We're very ruthless about moving them on and pushing ourselves forward. And to be honest, that to me is a big difference with an organization like, say, Tesco's, where you've just got so much legacy, it's very difficult to move it on quickly. Then take this to the resilient multi-channel cash flow side of the business. So those brands that aren't showing double-digit growth but are still growing. I mean, we have to publish at scale. So we have, as I said, 76 million magazines published every year. On top of that, we've now got a reach of 19 million UK consumers, and that's growing every year online. So, you know, that 19 million online customers is a five-fold increase on where it was 4 years ago. We've scaled up, but we haven't compromised quality. So radiotimes.com, this last 6 months, I just looked at it before I came out, has not even had 1 minute's downtime in that last 6 months. So we scale and we're resilient. As I said also, we've got a very successful subscriptions business, and that's largely driven by a customer database of over 9 million contacts. Those 9 million contacts we use, you know, digital marketing to acquire, retain, and obviously step up pricing. But more recently, we built a membership model around Gardener's World, which is why I highlight Gardener's World here. So this is an innovative way to start charging for free content. So basically, when you get a subscription with Gardener's World now, we unlock what's called the secret garden within Gardener's World that allows you to get that premium content. It's been really successful. It's ahead of plan, and we've built it, again, you're going to hear this a lot, extendably, so that we can roll it out to other brands. We also have a digital content and apps business, like a lot of publishers. That's showing 13% year-on-year growth. I think the big thing here for me is the platform that we've built has moved us away from PDFs. We're no longer just creating PDF versions of our magazines. We're taking data in its raw form, and once it's created, we're able to adapt it and turn it into new formats. That allows us to make our own apps more engaging, but has also allowed us to have great success with things like Google AMP as a format and Apple News. But it's adaptable. It's adaptable to any format. And I think, so Jeremy highlighted it a little bit, there are all sorts of places you're going to be able to publish your content in the future. And creating that flexibility to take raw format data and adapt it to different marked up formats is really important. I mean, when I was at Tesco's, I built out, one thing I did there was I built out the Huddle tablet platform. It was a definite attempt to create a place and a destination for people to go so you can get all your different types of requirements in there, your different propositions. It's that kind of walled garden concept. Now you've got third-party apps and devices. It's quite interesting. It was Vic, wasn't it, or Viv? Yeah, it'd be lovely if it was that nice and open source, isn't it? But they're locked down on proprietary platforms, so you have to play with those proprietary platforms. And finally, look, last but not least, I shouldn't forget it, digital advertising. It's quite interesting because I think Richard and I have had this conversation. We talk a lot about digital advertising in publishing, and I've deliberately put it at the end. From a digital perspective, it now only forms about 20% of our revenue. But we have to keep well ahead of the game there. That's an area where we heavily invest in technology to create, really great bespoke creative campaigns. Introduce, partnerships, direct sales, and programmatic. And in fact, the programmatic side is going well enough for us that over the last few months we've had, really good year-on-year growth over previous years. As you can see by now, our technology is not dedicated to brand, but streams of functionality. We have dedicated teams around features rather than brands, and that's powerful from a platform capability perspective, and it's absolutely essential to creating a strategy. So I've talked a little bit about what platform is, why it's so important, and so on. However, we as a company truly believe that we can unlock even greater value from the key concepts of platform reuse. It's why at the beginning of the year, I kicked off a strategic project that we call Fabric, our strategy for further accelerating growth. Okay, let me describe what Fabric is. Now, I talked about the 4 components earlier, especially the 3 components around content, commerce, and data and personalization. Fabric is a way of delivering them in a consistent way. And if I take you to the top, at the moment, we have largely a unified presentation layer, but there are still some legacy components in there. I'd be lying if I said to you that we have one unified tech platform. But we're committed to separating the UX from the back-end functionality of the business. It gives us great flexibility in being able to publish to multiple devices and multiple platforms. And crucially, it allows content that's created in one place to be viewed elsewhere. If you look at the bottom, we have a section called Content and Commerce Services, and it's deliberate that we've got the people at the bottom as well. I've worked in too many organizations that don't really love their own internal stuff. They focus very heavily on design for customers, but not on the tooling necessary to do your job internally. We're treating our own internal customers with the same attention to detail that we treat our customers externally. And that means giving them tools for editing and publishing, but also giving our commerce guys really great tools for merchandising and product ingesting and so on. And the way we manifest that is through what we call services. So a lot of you would have probably heard about services in a technology world, a set of data and logic that you can reuse across your entire platform. Traditionally, even at immediate, we've held data in databases, and those databases have required quite a lot of knowledge to extract that data and reuse it across platforms. We're halfway through a journey now of turning everything into reusable services. And what I mean by that is you take content service. A recent service we developed was about recipes. So we got structured data around recipes for Olive Magazine. Olive Magazine is a food magazine, so it stands to reason it has recipes. But we can take that and we can extend it now into Radio Times or somewhere else where they have an article, say, about food, and you can just take content created one place and use it elsewhere. From a commerce side, really exciting. It kind of really ties into the work I did at Tesco's, which is you can create great content, of course, but you can start to put a physical product into articles. You can put a buy button with it, and you can buy now. Really exciting kind of mashup of content and commerce. You can only do that with services. In the middle is around data and personalization. Now, I told you that we have 9 million, a database of 9 million customer prospects. We do all the usual things around digital marketing and CRM. But where we think the future lies is around personalization, and it's an underexploited asset at Immediate. I'll just give you a quick flavor of how it works. We're only starting to build out the personalization engine at the moment. But look at the customer on the left. The customer comes to see us. We have a whole load of first-party data around customers. That 9 million customer database we talked about has names, it has gender, it has dates of birth, it has all that sort of stuff. And, over the last few years, though, increasingly that has declined in importance. It's quite interesting. I still get a lot of people talk to me about first-party data. But actually the power, as we all know, is around capturing your historic traffic and your behavior, the things, and that gives you a far greater level of segmentation and a far greater level of ways of addressing your intent. Immediate has an audience of 19 million online consumers. We have a lot of information on people. Our growth trajectory is looking like we'll be into the 30 millions in the next 5 years. At that point, you've got largely, the adult population of the UK. And as a result, we really believe we can capture a lot of information on customers that enable us to segment. Once we do that, there's really two kind of treatments we talk about. One is content services. So we're already doing this in Jewelry Maker. For instance, jewelry making is quite a difficult skill to get into. So we have completely different personalized journeys now. Okay, it's tied in with marketing at the moment. We'll soon have this on the website around taking people through an incubator journey, learning jewelry making, and then becoming expert. It's a really key way of engaging and inquiring more people. And then you take the personalized content side. We have lots of brands that actually are across quite broad reaches. Radio Times is one. If you love soap operas, well, then obviously you can substitute content for soap operas over things for sci-fi, let's just say. That's a second part of our approach to it. We already do that, again, in digital marketing. If you're going to acquire people, you want to put things that really interest them. Very interestingly, though, on the right-hand side, we have what we call commerce services. And I wouldn't pretend to say this is anything groundbreaking, but it is for a publisher. First of all, we look at personalized business opportunities. When someone comes into one of our sites, we historically try and monetize them as much as we can through digital advertising. That's what we do. It's the free-to-air concept. The smarts is in getting the highest yield you can from that customer from advertising. But increasingly over time, the personalization engine is going to have to make a decision for us as to whether that's the most appropriate thing. And I think a really good example is Hitched. In Hitched, we have a bride who's booked a venue, but as I said, there's still these billions of pounds on the table. You know, if they just use that site to book a venue and then disappear, that's no use to us at all. There's a lot of, it's not good for the consumer because we've got all this great stuff to work with them on, but it's not good for us. If they then appear on Radio Times or one of our other brands, historically we would have just targeted them with advertising. But increasingly we'll do everything we can to drive them back into that purchasing funnel. Whether that's taking them back to the site or actually surfacing there. The whole point about the single presentation there, surfacing suppliers on the content site that they're on at the moment. And then the second part, personalized product, is something we do a bit at Jewelry Maker, and of course you see very much at places like Amazon, which is putting in the great e-commerce components around recommenders, about sorting lists, about putting all the different kind of ways in which you can create product that's relevant for customers. Again, it just adds value. Okay, I mean, by applying this approach, we hope to maximize the engagement, the value of every engagement with our customers. And as I said, our reach is broad, so that's a very lucrative thing for us. What can you believe? So just to round it off, just to give you an insight into how platforms supported us so far and how we feel growth is going to take it in the future. Well, in the last 4 years, we've nearly doubled our number of employees. Our revenues have gone from 130 to nearly 200 million. And our profits are nearly doubled as well. We've had phenomenal success pursuing our platform strategy. And I hope you can see that Immediate is a growing company, but we've got lots more exciting things on the horizon. There's lots more ways to exploit new technology and social reach and different business models. You can focus on special interests, that's great. We can focus on world-class content, that's doubly fantastic. But also having a great and coherent technology platform strategy is really leveraging us for growth. Thank you.